Hello beauty. This is a step-by-step video tutorial on how to sew a nightie dress with a frill under the bust. Let's start by making the straps. We'll need a cord, as it will help to easily turn the strap right side out. So, take the cord, place it on the right side of the strap in the middle, and sew its end. Now that the end of the cord is secured, fold the strap in half, making sure the cord is aligned with the fold of the strap. Pin it and sew the strap. Trim the seam allowance, leaving 0.5 centimeters. Now, pull the cord to turn the strap right side out. Be sure to do this slowly and gradually, without pulling too hard. The straps are ready now, they just need to be pressed. Next, we'll move on to the bodice pieces. There are 4 pieces, and each has 2 darts. On the wrong side of the bodice, align the dart lines and pin them together. Sew the darts. At the top of the dart, I don't backstitch because the fabric is delicate. Instead, I tie the thread ends by hand and tuck them inside the dart. Press the darts toward the center front line. Take the strap and secure it at the top point on the right side of the bodice piece. Pin the strap additionally to ensure it doesn't shift during sewing and accidentally get caught in the seam. Take the second bodice piece and place it on top. Make sure the right sides of the pieces are facing each other. Pin along the center seam and armhole seam. Sew the bodice pieces along these lines. Then, trim the seam allowance, leaving 0.5 centimeters from the seam line. Turn the bodice right side out. Straighten the seams. At this stage, you can optionally add top stitching along the center and armhole seams if desired. Now, let's move on to sewing the ruffle. I'll be finishing the bottom edge of the frill with a French seam. To do this, first fold the seam allowance on the wrong side of the frill by 0.5 centimeters and stitch 0.2 centimeters from the fold. Now, trim the seam allowance, leaving 0.1 centimeters from the seam line. Fold the seam allowance a second time by 0.3 centimeters. For convenience, I secured the fold with hand stitches beforehand. I recommend you do the same, as this time, the stitching should be done from the right side of the frill, 0.2 centimeters from the fold. Let's move on to assembling the front panels of the dress. Now, join the center panel of the dress with the side panels. Place the pieces with the right sides facing each other and pin them. Sew the pieces together. The raw edges need to be finished with an overlock. Press the seams toward the center front. Fold the frill in half and make a notch in the middle, 0.9 centimeters deep. This will help attach the frill to the dress neatly. Start securing the frill from the center. Open the center slit of the frill and place it on the front part of the dress so that it forms a square with sides measuring 1 centimeter. Sew the frill to the front of the dress. Take the bodice pieces. First, attach one bodice piece to the dress. Start by securing the bodice piece 1 centimeter down from the top of the front panel. Sew the bodice. Direct the sewn bodice piece upward. Take the second bodice piece and pin it in place. Start securing it from the center front and 1 centimeter down from the top of the front panel. Sew the second bodice piece. Finish the raw edges with an overlock. To do this, lower the bodice pieces down. Join the back pieces. Place the center and side back panels with the right sides facing each other. Pin them, and sew the seam. Then, join the back pieces with the front pieces along the side seams. Start joining the back pieces to the front from the bottom hemline. Be sure to leave a 1 centimeter seam allowance at the top of the back pieces for attaching the facings later. Therefore, start joining the back pieces to the front from the bottom hemline. At this point, it's important to determine the length of the straps that works best for you before proceeding with further sewing. Finish the raw edges with an overlock stitch. Press the side seams toward the back, and press the princess seams on the back toward the center. Fold the dress with the right sides facing each other, aligning it along the center back seam. At the top, measure a 1 cm seam allowance for attaching the back facing. Then, measure the length of the zipper. Now, sew a regular seam from the hem up to this mark. From this mark up to the top, sew a temporary seam by setting the machine to the widest stitch length. Press the seam open. Then, moving from the top to the mark, carefully cut out the temporary seam. Turn the dress right side out and sew in the invisible zipper. Thanks to the temporary seam and pressing, the zipper will be sewn in smoothly without any misalignment or unevenness. First, secure the zipper to one side of the dress with pins. For extra security, you can also hand baste it in place. Then, secure the zipper to the other side of the dress. Sew the zipper in place. At the bottom, I have a section of the center back that remains unsewn. I will sew this part by hand because it's difficult to reach under the zipper with the machine. Prepare the back-facing pieces. Sew the back facings together and finish the raw edges with an overlock stitch. Place the facing right side down. Fold the side seam allowance of the facing 1 cm inward and pin it. On the other side, pin the facing to the back as well. Fold the side seam allowance of the facing 1 cm inward and pin it in place. Sew the facings to the back. At the princess seam, measure 1 cm and leave this part unsewn, as the straps will go through here. Now that the facings are attached to the back, feed the straps through to the right side. On the wrong side, pin the strap in place and sew it. Trim the seam allowances, leaving 0.5 cm from the seam line. Turn the facing inward. On the zipper side, also turn the facing seam allowance inward and pin it. I fold the seam allowance on the side edge of the facing inward and secure it with pins. I also fold the seam allowance in the center of the back inward and pin it. Now that both the side and central edges of the facing are secured, I fasten them using small hand stitches. Since I love hand stitching, I often use it in the process of sewing garments. And now, the facing on the back is secured. Straighten the hem of the dress. Now, finish the hem with an overlock stitch. Fold the hem allowance of 2 cm to the wrong side and pin it in place. From the right side, stitch 1 cm from the fold. Finally, secure the seam allowance at the center of the dress to prevent it from sticking out. Direct the allowance on one side of the dress downward and do the same on the other side. Secure the seam allowance in the center with hand stitches. And that's it. The dressmaking process is complete. See you in the next video. Bye.